Now, politicians have been told to consider carrying panic alarms and to vary the routes and the times they travel to and from their work, and to wear comfortable shoes in case they need to make a quick getaway as part of an increased range of security measures around them. This comes in the wake of an incident last week involving Minister Anne Rabbitte and Kieran Cannon TD, where bags of excrement were thrown at two of them at a public meeting. And I'm joined now by Martin Kenny, Sinn Féin TD for Sligo Leitrim and Sinn Féin spokesperson for Justice. Good morning to you, Martin. You have had your own experience with this. Back in September, a car was driven through the gates of your home and crashed into your home while your wife was there alone, which I'm sure was a horrific event for your family. What do you make of these new advices, I suppose, that have been given to TDs, and is it enough?
Well, first of all, they're not really new. It was actually last year, I think, we first got some of this advice in regard to security measures and to being careful. It's the kind of security measures and care that is advised by the Gardaí to all sorts of people in society. You know, I know people who Gardaí themselves often have to take similar precautions, as indeed do other people. It's just sensible, I suppose. We live in a society where, unfortunately, there's a tiny minority who are very angry and disturbed and can sometimes take things too far. And sometimes it may be when they have alcohol on board or whatever, and they do stuff like that. Sometimes there's people that have various issues, and they can be extremely aggressive. And we've seen that in our constituency offices. We've seen that in different places, and sometimes indeed on the street. And it's quite frightening and alarming for people in public life to be treated like that. But I'm conscious that bus drivers are being attacked in our city. I'm conscious that people in emergency departments that you talked about a few minutes ago often have to deal with extremely aggressive people in those circumstances as well. So it's not only people in political life that have to deal with this and have to cope with this. A whole range of people in our society have to deal with this.
I accept that, and I think that's very magnanimous of you to say that. But am I right in thinking that there's been arson attacks at your house personally? I mean, you've had a number of incidences, and to be suggesting to TDs that they need to run their constituency offices and their clinics and things like that at different times on different days with short notice and all. Like this is a new era for politics in Ireland. In the UK, two MPs have been killed in the last 6 years, and many of them now wear stab vests at public meetings. This is more than I think what is probably happening in terms of verbal abuse that bus drivers might be getting.
Well, no, I think bus drivers have actually been physically attacked. But apart from that, I think yes, it is. A separate thing almost that there is this notion that it's almost a virtue to be angry and to be aggressive and to be really intense when you're dealing with a public representative and to shouting and roaring and going crazy. And sometimes when people are verbally like that and abusive in a verbal way, others then will actually be physically abusive and will take it that step further at different times. As you say, I've had our incidents here at the home, and it's put us into a situation where we had to consider and have made a decision, just a logical, practical decision that we're going to move house, and that's what we have to do because of this kind of behaviour.
I've worked in A&E. There aren't many doctors who work in A&E who've had to move house because of security threats. There aren't many people who work in public transport who've had to move house. Martin, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to you, but it sounds to me with your magnanimity that you're kind of minimising a problem that really is an issue. I mean, Jennifer Carroll McNeil has said this is the second time she's had to go to the guards about being practically stalked, and there's a conviction and a suspended sentence was given out previously against somebody else over her. This is not acceptable.
Oh, it's absolutely not acceptable, and it's not acceptable for anyone in society to be treated like that. And I suppose that's the point I'm making, is that what politicians and the abuse and attacks and situations that politicians and people in public life find themselves in is a reflection of our society as a whole, and the very bad direction that it's going down, and that we need to have. And
you don't believe that politicians are getting it worse than other
they are in some
occupations? Because I think you are, in fairness.
Yeah, in some instances we are, and in fairness, we certainly rural TDs in particular, we're very much rooted in our community. We know almost everybody in our general area around us. We're all the time on the road. We're all the time meeting people, and in fairness, we're very open. and our constituency offices are open all the time. People are coming and going all the time.
Let me ask you a last question.
And there is very, 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 very little of this. But the few people that do it are extremely aggressive, and we do need to have protection in place, and we do need to be taking precautions. Absolutely.
Because we do hear here anecdotally and in private on the show that many politicians are concerned that a serious incident may occur. Can you see a time, the last question I have for you, where politicians in Ireland will not be as accessible to members of the public simply because in terms of their own personal security they can't be?
Yeah, I do. I see that time coming.
Okay. Look, thank you very much.
Unfortunately.
Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning, and we do genuinely appreciate it. That is Sinn Féin TD there, Martin Kenny. I think this is awful stuff, Shane, myself personally.
It is awful, and the fear would be privately among TDs is that it is only a matter of time before a really serious incident happens.
Wholly unacceptable.
Yeah, we have MPs in the UK wearing stab vests,
I know.
and we don't want that happening here.